Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. Today is super exciting. I'm going to walk you through why and how to build a pollinator garden on a budget. So if you're wondering why it's important to have a pollinator garden in your backyard, the pollinator populations, especially bees and butterflies, are decreasing worldwide. So anything that we can do to help that. They're losing their habitat and some pesticides are causing some problems. So when you don't have bees, there's nothing to pollinate your crops and your food supply. Anything we can do to help the pollinators so that they can maintain or increase their populations to we need to have them around to pollinate all of our vegetable crops, and it's just really important to have them. So anything we can do to help. They can also be really beautiful, and it's so much fun to watch the bees buzz around in the garden, or butterflies or hummingbirds. As a flower farmer, most of my flowers I cut before they ever open up so that the bees or the butterflies have a chance to get to them, which it always makes me feel a little bit guilty, but that's why we're going to do this series. We're actually going to do 3 different pollinator gardens this year with 3 different approaches to how we're going to create them. The approach we're going to take today is to build a perennial pollinator garden all from seed, which is one of the least expensive ways that you can do this. You do sacrifice a little bit of time. You can't just plunk a plant in the ground and get blooms necessarily that same year. But most things will bloom by the end of the season if you do it right and do it early enough, which is why we're doing it right now. It's the end of January, 1st of February, so it's time to get after it. We're taking advantage of a beautiful day. It's supposed to possibly snow tonight, so trying to get as far as we can before that all rolls in. All right, so the first step to building your garden is to assess your space. This space, which is the west side of our greenhouse, is where we're going to build ours. What you're assessing generally is light, what other plants are already in the space, what you want to cut out, how much room you have, the kind of soil you're dealing with, and all of that for me is pretty well known. This is west facing, so it'll get all the hot afternoon sun. This right here is a beautiful viburnum that I just love. I do need to do a lot of pruning on it, get it up a bit. This euphorbia is pretty out of control, so I'm going to do some clean out of this. I have a lavender right here that I just need to clean up. And the other thing is that this right here is a pathway. The greenhouse, obviously ignore the paint that needs to happen this spring. But the greenhouse, I come in and out of this way quite a lot. And I'll have to deal with that. I think I'll just put some pavers in there. But ultimately, my goal is to make it all the way around this way and then up around to the corner. And on the back side of the greenhouse back here is where we have a lily bed. There's already some lilies popping out of the ground. After you've assessed your space and how much room you have, what you're planning, how much light you get and everything else, next thing is to decide what you want to grow. And that all depends on your goals with your garden. If you live in an area where monarch butterflies travel through, we don't. But if you do, I would recommend some milkweed, whatever native milkweed that you normally get, because that is the only food that monarch butterflies will use. If you want to attract bees next to your veggie garden, plant more open-faced flowers because the bees love them. If you're looking to support hummingbirds, any flowers that you can find that have nectar, high nectar versus necessarily pollen, the hummingbirds and the butterflies will like the nectar-rich flowers, like Nicotiana is a good one. So my goal for this garden is to attract all of them. Like I said, we don't have monarch butterflies, but we do have bees and swallowtail butterflies and lots of hummingbirds. So the seeds that I picked out, let me go show you the seeds that I picked out for this garden. We're in the greenhouse. I've got all my seeds laid out here. So I'll just walk through them. The first one is lupin. I adore lupin. They're definitely perennial here. There's something you can look for when you're checking out seeds. A lot of times they'll have like a little bee on them that says that they're good for pollinators. I am very familiar with lupin and I know that it is. These guys attract, they attract bees, but hummingbirds really like lupin. The shape of the petals, they get all the way in there and it's great. The next one is salvia. Those beautiful purple spikes. The bees, hummingbirds, butterflies, they all love them. They will be absolutely covered when these bloom in the late spring or when these bloom in the summertime. The next up is a Shasta daisy. These are fantastic. Butterflies actually really like Shasta daisies. So the white color and that bright sunny yellow center, they're always so pretty. This is just your classic Echinacea purpurea. This particular variety is supposed to be good for containers, though it still gets, 30 inches tall. But this one in particular, bees will love. I have lots of Echinacea in different places around the gardens, and there's always bees on them. The next one is a verbascum. Isn't that pretty? I love the color of that. This one attracts both bees and butterflies. Most tall, spiky flowers like that, if it has little tubular flower petals, it will have the butterflies and the hummingbirds will like it. So verbascum. And then delphinium. This is always one of my favorites. These attract everything. The bees, the butterflies, and the hummingbirds will all go find these guys. And they get so tall, and I love the color scheme of them. They're beautiful. And we've got one that I haven't actually really grown before, is a painted daisy. I liked the colors, and it says that it's attractive to bees and butterflies. So we're gonna try those out. All of these, like I said, are perennial, so they'll be great. And then the last one, we've actually already started this one. This is a lobelia. It's a low-growing flower with blue, very dark blue flower heads or petals. And the bumblebees and hummingbirds will go after those. So I'm excited about that. And then the last one is not actually seeds, but it's a clematis. I plan to put some kind of trellis or something in the corner back there that I can put the clematis on. I've got a few clematis around the gardens, and the hummingbirds love these. They're always on them. It's so fun to watch. We have one right outside of our bedroom window, and the hummingbirds will be buzzing around and hitting that flower while I'm sitting in my bedroom reading a book. And all of these we're going to start today. It's pretty exciting. Another good thing for this approach to creating a pollinator garden is that you can pick all the colors. All of these look to me in mostly the purples and pinks, a little bit of yellow here and there that should really coordinate with each other nicely. And I want that garden to have that color tone. Okay, so let's walk through the steps for how we're actually going to build this garden. Starting today, we will start all of those seeds and pot up that clematis into a pot. It's too early to plant it into the soil, but I want to get it all potted up so that it's ready when we do. The next thing is to prep the soil, prep the area. We're actually going to do this first while we have a window in the weather before we start all those seeds. And we're going to use the cardboard and compost method. So I'm going to go here in a minute. I'm going to go paint out the lines of where I want it to be. Then I'll clean out what I need to clean out, lay down cardboard, and just put a few inches of compost on top of the whole thing. By the time we're ready to plant out the seedlings, the cardboard should be broken down enough for us. We get a lot of rain this time of year, so it should be good. If not, we'll just cut some holes in the cardboard and make it work. So we're gonna do this step by step today. First thing that we're gonna do is prep the area. Okay, I think that's a pretty good trajectory. It may change a little bit as we go, but I wanted to incorporate some of this area to make sure that the lavender is in there. It'll help to not have to work around that with a lawnmower. And then this area, I actually might bring this in a little bit. I don't want it to be too huge, and I still need to be able to get the tractor back through here. That's why I narrowed it down a little bit down here. And then it just comes around and hooks back up into the lily bed that's back here. Okay, next up, cleaning up the euphorbia and pruning a little bit on my viburnum tree. Well, the snow came a little early today. Okay guys, we got through step one. Step two is to start all of your seeds. Now I'm gonna go back through all of these just to make sure that we know there's a couple that have some specific requirements for seeding, but most of them are just normal. Put them in 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch deep, cover them over, dampen it, and put it under grow lights. So there's only a couple. So I'm going to start with the lupin. Now this jar has little lupin seeds in it. We had to, let me pour out the water. Since these seeds can be really tough, it's very helpful to soak the seeds. They've plumped up quite a bit. I put these into some warm water yesterday, so today they're ready to go. Now I did do a more in-depth specific video on how to start lupin from seed, so I'm not going to go into all of that. But these do take some extra special care to make sure that you get good germination. But in general, they need darkness to germinate, so I'm going to poke my holes, set them all in there, and then they'll go under a light, but it'll be dark enough that it won't matter. But they do also want to grow on cold, so I will not put them on the actual heat mat. It'll just be in the greenhouse, which stays right now around 60 degrees, which is perfect for the lupin. This particular set, it's just the Russell mix. There's, purple, pink, yellow, maybe some darker, almost red colors that come up, but it's a really nice blend. There's not a whole lot of seeds in here, but I'm also going to use the deep cell trays, a cell tray for this particular plant, because they don't like their roots disturbed once they're up and going. They really prefer to be direct sown, but I want to have control of this whole process this time. And I've done this plenty of times and it works just fine. So lupin, that's going to go in that first batch. They look like little stones. Don't mind my messy hands. All right, so each of these is gonna go in. Okay, so we have four rows of 5, so we have 20 cells with lupin seeds in them. I'm actually gonna put this right here. Now, the next one that I'm gonna use this tray for is delphinium. These are just one of my absolute favorite flowers. You can see the color mix, it's just blues and whites. These get 3 to 4 feet tall. For me, they usually bloom in the spring, and then they bloom again heading into fall. So we get a couple rounds of show out of these. These also need to be in the dark. They only need to be buried about 1/8 of an inch deep, so not super deep. I'll just make little wells for these guys. And I'm gonna do 15, which should be plenty for the space that we have out there. And then the other space in here, I'm gonna do my echinacea. I do have another variety of echinacea that's on its way. It's in the mail. That is it's a fuchsia color that I'm looking forward to. This is the classic purpurea that I have, which is also nice. But it'll be fun to have some different colors. And if you were with me earlier, we started some Indian summer, I think that, or Cherokee sunset, I can't remember. But it's a blend of reds and yellow and oranges that are very nice. Now I'm overseeding these. I want to hedge my bets and make sure that I have lots in there. And then, like I said, the last thing that's going in this tray is my echinacea. These are the purpurea. These are really easy to grow. They also get 2.5 to 3.5 feet tall, which we're gonna have a lot of pretty tall plants over there. But I think these are always fun to have, especially when they're tucked in. My experience, they're good and sturdy and strong, and they will stay upright. But the color is always super nice. And the bees, I'm telling you, they adore this plant. Okay, these need to be about 1/4 inch deep. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but the lupin is really good for hummingbirds, attracting hummingbirds. And then the delphinium is good for bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. All the pollinators love them. We'll have flies and wasps and all kinds of critters out there. I'm just gonna put a couple in each hole. All right, and then I will spray this whole tray down just to kind of settle the soil. I dampened it all ahead of time so it's not dry. Put a lid on it to help maintain moisture, and I'm just gonna put it right here on this rack. Okay, now let's go through the rest of what we're growing, and we're gonna put all the rest of them in a regular 72 count tray. Okay, let's talk about these flowers. We've got a painted daisy. I've never actually grown this. It's a chrysanthemum family. It is, these get a little bit shorter. They only get 2 feet tall. And then these attract butterflies and bees. The big open center they like. So these don't need anything special. 1/4 inch deep, just like everything else. Verbascum. These are real pretty. That sort of magenta and yellow color in the very center, I'm a big fan. These get even a little bit shorter. They'll get 18 inches tall. They're pretty tough. I've seen them just pop up randomly around our property, and I've seen one in the middle of the driveway in nothing but gravel just grow and have a happy life. It wasn't this variety, it was some yellow, I don't know if it's native, but I didn't plant any, so maybe a bird dropped it from somewhere else. Either way, they're really cool. And these, like I said, these attract bees and butterflies also. They don't need anything special. Well, that's not true. These do need to be surface sown because they need light in order to germinate. So the rest of these will be buried, but these guys need light to germinate. Okay, the next is the Shasta daisy. Classic cottage garden flower. Shasta daisies are a big fan of butterflies. So we're gonna do a section of these, and then the last one is salvia. These are always covered in bees and butterflies, and even hummingbirds in my garden. I have some nepeta, catmint, and then we have some other kinds of sage, and these are just absolutely covered with all the pollinators in the different places that we're at. So these just get the same, 1/8 of an inch deep. They need darkness to germinate. So let me get all of these planted, and then we'll get them on to a heat mat. Okay, now this one is gonna go on a heat mat. And then the last thing that we need to get planted is this clematis. How pretty is that? These will get, it says 6 to 9 feet tall, so we'll put that trellis up there. And I only need to plant it 2 to 3 inches deep. I just want to make sure, the only reason I'm potting this up at all is that I don't want it to dry out in this bag. So I'm just gonna put it in this pot, and then when we plant everything out, it'll come out of this pot. Do you hear all that? Look, it's already trying to grow. It definitely needed to get out of here. All right. And I'm just using regular potting mix for this. Now I'm gonna put this guy down here on the floor. It'll hold more moisture that way for some reason. It just works out that way. Okay, and then the last one, I think I spoke to earlier, but this lobelia, we've got it in a tray right back here. It's already sprouted, so this will be the low growing plant that we put around the edges. All right, so that is step number 2. That's completely done. All the seeds are sown, the clematis is potted up. Okay, step 2 is done. The step 3 will be to plant it out in a couple of months. Obviously, with the snow and everything else, we're not planting anything right at the moment. But all of these guys at the end of March, beginning of April, when our last frost is, we will plant everything out, and I'll take you guys along for that when we do it. The 4th step is to provide some water source for them. Now, I could put a bird bath in there, and I may still do that, or a butterfly dish. That might be an even better idea. But we have, in the St. Francis garden that's right next door to where this garden is, there is a bird bath in there. But a butterfly bath might be nice. I'll think about that one. And then 5th step is to add anything extra. I'm gonna add a bug hotel. I'll put a picture up. I ordered it. It was supposed to be here this morning so I could show it to you, but it's not. But this hotel, it has room for mason bees, butterflies, and all kinds of other critters to make themselves a little home. And right on top of the smorgasbord that will be the garden for them. So that's just an extra thing to do. Step 6 will be to just enjoy your garden and observe all the pollinators that come and enjoy the space. Now, it's going to be several months before we get to that point, but I'm going to take you guys along all the way through this. Unfortunately, though, this is as far as we can get today. But one of my favorite things to do is to literally sit out in the flower field, especially when the dahlias and echinacea are blooming, because those particular plants don't get pulled or cut before the flowers open, that the bees and the hummingbirds and butterflies actually get a chance to be in and on those plants. So they're super fun, and I'd like to take a little bit of time at the end of every day to just be out there and just watch them and enjoy the space. And the bees and hummingbirds and butterflies are so much a fun part of it. Pollinator gardens have the ability to grow or at least sustain the pollinator populations in your area, which just helps all your local ecosystems that you have in and around wherever you are, and every little bit helps. So I encourage all of you guys to try and start your own. This is super fun. You don't have to do it on a big scale. You can do it in a pot, really. You can have a good sized pot, and you can have all these different plants in there, and you'll be amazed at all the pollinators that will find even just one pot. So give it a try. Get some inexpensive seed. I did the math on all of this. So the seeds in total were about $23. The cardboard was free. It's all a bunch of Amazon boxes that we kept. And then the clematis was about $6, and the compost was probably about $50 worth of compost. Between the compost and the soil to do all of this, it was probably about $50. In total, it was less than $80 for all the supplies that we needed to get this garden going. It's definitely a doable thing for most people. I can't say it enough how fantastic this pollinator garden is going to be, I hope. There's always a little bit of faith in planting, understanding that something could go wrong, but I'm looking forward to this. Okay, now like I said, this is a first video in a series we're gonna do. Along with updates on this garden, we're going to have 2 other gardens that we're putting together, 3 different approaches for creating a pollinator garden. This was definitely a budget-friendly one. There is one more that's gonna be even cheaper to build. And then the last one will be different altogether. So if you like this one, give a thumbs up. Leave a comment on your favorite pollinator-friendly plants and flowers. I look forward to hearing about that. And hit subscribe if you want to see how we're going to go do the other 2 gardens around the farm. Okay, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.